I'm not a racist, preach to teach the art. You still they never had this. Number one, them wanna run about the gun. I wasn't licensed to have one. The minute they see me, fear me. I'm the epitome, a public enemy. Use, abuse, without screws. I refuse to blow fuse. They even had it on the news. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. Back when I wrote y'all, yes.
So soon as I'm like excited, then I'm like, why?
Yeah. I like you went to bed too.
I said, you know what? So first of all, let me just say this publicly. I am not a public speaker. It's not my ministry. Not very good at it. No, I'm not. It's wild. I get grade school kids, high school kids. Y'all invite me to speak. You're going to have expectations. It's not what I do. Because it requires, listen, to publicly speak, you have to have like this, there's like a shtick involved, like this kind of thing. And there are people that are really good at it, but they do nothing else. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they don't add value any. Like I feel like what I do, this is not performance. Mm-hmm. This is just, I'm not performing. I feel like public speaking there's a level of performance to that, right? You have to, know how to, comport yourself. And there's this thing, the gestures and all of that. And you have this sort of script that you follow and there's a story at the end. I don't listen. And there's money to be made. Let me just say, I know people, that's how they make their living. Public speaking. And there's organizations that have money to bring people in to speak. I get it. It's a racket. It's a little bit of a racket.
Yes.
So when I heard that Tim Walz was nervous, and because he doesn't do this, because people who roll up their sleeves, and this, Eljoy Williams, and get out there and they get busy, you ain't really got time to be chit-chatting and talking to people anyway. That's not your ministry. Your ministry is like legislating, getting people elected, or going out there, there's a problem over here, let me solve it. There's a certain energy with that. So when I heard he was nervous, I was like, I understand where that man is. And unfortunately, because we live in a performative society, people who do not stand at the podium with grace and charm and know how to put those words together, and their eyeballs are doing, like people practice in the mirror. I remember having this conversation with Drew McCaskill, who practiced to give a speech. Like he said he practiced like for 3 days in the mirror just to make sure that every facial motion was perfect. And
dang, I don't even do that.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. So I knew he was nervous when he first opened his mouth, and I was like, this ain't gonna go well, because once your nerves get involved, all the preparation in the world matters not. Let me tell you, I turned into a puddle of sweat with 8th graders. 8th graders looking at me, I'm sweating, I'm up there, and I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. And I got stuff to say, but I'm just in that moment, everything goes out the window. So I was feeling for him. At the same time, I was like, how is this going to be received? So what did you see last night?
Well, it's interesting because I didn't get to see the beginning of the debate. By the time I got home, it was like a half an hour in. And because I was trying to recruit lawyers for election protection. So I had an event to train people last night. So I was in the streets. So I was out here working. And so by the time I sat down, and I'm sitting down with my little piece of chicken, trying to eat something before I go to bed, and I'm watching it, and I'm asking my husband, who I tasked with watching it because I wasn't going to be home. And he was like, it don't seem like he's, like this is his thing. He was like, but the liar is up there lying, and lying convincingly, and so it was something to be said. It's just like, while he may perform better, people could see that he was, lying. Well, at least the people who know him to be a liar. But if you are basing your vote on how someone performs in a debate, which we can go all the way back to how we got to Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket, which, is sort of the Biden situation to begin with. We both were like, oh no, what's happening to Biden, in terms of this debate, but we weren't willing to throw everything out because he performed bad at a debate, right? And so for people who base their vote on how someone performs in a debate, a skill that does not get used by a president in their administration. I guess to them, then they have a different candidate because someone was good at a debate.
The other thing, which I thought was endearing, but I didn't know how it was going to land. Tim Walz was like, I agree with JD Vance on this. I agree. We see eye to eye. I mean, the affable way in which Tim Walz, it's like somebody in your neighborhood who's just doing, the coach. Literally, he was so nice and so good. Like even when he got caught up with, did he lie about his service? And he was struggling with that. But I was like, that's the way an honest person would, listen, I misspeak? Because we misspeak all the time. I might have over exaggerated there. He's like, okay, I probably did that. But in this world that we're in right now, it looks like weakness. Like who admits to, because nobody admits to being wrong. Nobody admits that they may have misspoken or they made a mistake. And I was like, it was endearing to hear him struggle through that, because that was human. Like human beings are flawed, and we got to see that too. I find Tim Walz to be absolutely wonderful. I think he's exactly what this country needs at this time, and Kamala Harris, the whole campaign, because it centers human beings, it centers the least of us and people who are struggling to make it. They're providing a way with the and he listed a lot of stuff that he does in Minnesota as governor and the things that the Harris-Walz administration is going to tackle. And it was all centering the middle class and people who don't have, and people who don't come from a lot, to have opportunities to buy a home and to have jobs and to do things. And I said, are people listening though? So my concern is, style or form over style, because JD Vance was slick. Oh, he was like parcel tongue out there, like Harry Potter. Oh my goodness. I said, this is what he does. He's a professional liar. He's really good at it. And he's good at the performance.
Yeah. And, a lot of campaigning is performing. And putting a performance on for the voter you're targeting. Some of us, right, even going back to the presidential debate, some people want, and last night's debate, some people want, I want her to get him. Like, I want him to tear down. Like, that is the performance that they're expecting. And if she doesn't do that, if Tim Walz doesn't tear down every lie that, Vance said, then it's a disappointment. Some people are looking, as you were, for the humanity in a candidate, and just like, well, this person seems to be like me. See, I recognize this person. I recognize myself in this person. And this is the kind of leadership style that I want a person to have. I want them to be able to admit mistakes. I want them to be able to say, like, yeah, I agree with that, but this is what I want to do in addition, right? Like, some people want that. And it depends on usually the performance that the candidate is giving, who they are speaking to on that stage, right? For Vance, like his audience clearly was MAGA, take down Tim, like take them down. And that's how he was performing. He was performing like in that way of like, I'm going to stick to our talking points. I'm going to take down, Tim Walz and sort of everything, whatever, because then the aftermath, and if you see the follow-up from them, that's what it was. Oh, he took him down. He took him to school. Tim Vance showed that he's better than that, or whatever. Whereas the response you see regarding Tim Walz is, he's likable. I like him. Right? Like I
saw a lot of weird, because they're trying to throw that back at him. He was just, for me, I recognize it again. Once anybody has ever had to speak, and you're competent and you're smart and you're brilliant, but you are nervous, soon as the nerves hit, there's no coming back from it, is my point. It's no recovery. I was like, I wanted to hold up a sign, breathe, just breathe, take a moment, just pause, sir. Because he then started going 100 miles an hour. And I recognize that too. I was like,
Yep.
oh my God, it's not coming back. It's too late. All right.
I had an experience of that. I was asked to speak back at the at college I went to at Hofstra for the alumni thing. So these are people you went to school with, like all the stuff, and they're like, Joy out there doing everything and doing whatever. We're gonna invite her to speak because of whatever. And I was so nervous because these are people I know, right? Like these are whatever. And I had this joke that I thought was gonna like land great and things like that. Told a joke, and everybody was like,
it was crickets.
No, right. No. And I was like, dang. And then I was done for the rest of the speech. Yeah. Like,
so what do you do? You're like, this was the big moment. And y'all didn't respond to it.
Right. I was like, oh.
I reduced myself to doing Q&A. I was like, we're going to treat this like a radio show. Y'all stand up at that because I can answer questions and I can banter with folk. But the speech giving, not my ministry. Won't be doing it. I turned down so many invites, and it's not because I don't want to come see y'all. It's just I'm not a good public speaker. It's not the thing that brings me joy. It gives me anxiety and makes me sweat, and I'm usually not that good at it. So then I'm embarrassed because I don't want y'all to spend good money to have me come out there and not deliver. So that's it. That's the reason. But yeah, last night, with all of that said, 88% of the people, according to the exit polls or whatever, said that they appreciated the civility because it was handshaking. The wives came. It was nice. It was nice. You know, you actually thought J.D. Vance was a nice person, even though he's performing. Let me just remind y'all, Satan was the most beautiful of all the angels and the right hand of God. He was the light bearer and the music director in heaven. That charming is the brand of evil. I just want y'all to know charming is the brand of evil. So you're supposed to like that. But he got hemmed up a couple of times. One, because I was disappointed that CBS wasn't going to fact check in real time, but then they ended up doing it. They ended up starting to fact check. I was like, okay, come on through and fact check. You're fact checking. They started doing it. And then this happened. Elizabeth, let me hold on, Smith. Where is it? Where he got into the back and forth and he's like, wait a minute. You're not supposed to fact check me. Play that clip. Do you have it?
Governor, and just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created.
They cut off his
gentlemen.
The
audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
Yeah, Margaret Brennan tried to fact check him because he kept calling people illegals. The folks that were targeted in Springfield, Ohio, who they said were eating the cats and eating the dogs and eating the pets and eating each other and eating all of the people, they're actually legally here. They're legally here. And to his point, people can apply for asylum. Because guess what? Some horrific things are going on in these countries, sometimes at the hands of America, the United States, and they can apply and there's a process. Let's stop calling people illegal, when they're not, number one. But number two, yes, there's a process to being here legally and to being granted asylum. That's all part of it. But you're doing this for a particular reason, to demonize a group of people so that you can make your base of bigots happy to elect you because you're going to put them in their place. Although Trump had 4 years to do that, and he did not. I'm gonna say less about it. But that was a good moment because I was like, oh, Margaret Brennan's she gonna fact check. And then CBS had a QR code that you could scan. I was like, CBS, who's scanning that to get the fact checking? Ain't nobody putting their phone up to the phone. I don't even trust your QR code. But I got some fact checking. I actually did some research today. But then Smith's point out, this happened. Because after everything, JD Vance was smooth. He didn't even do the under eye eyeliner that he normally does, because he was getting ribbed about Maybelline. So he came in sans the eyeliner on the bottom. I think he had a little smudge on the top. He looked fabulous. He was tall. He was handsome. The eyes were popping. He was smooth. All of the dulcet tones just pouring out. And then Tim Walz asked him a question. He asked him one question, and I feel like he leg swept himself. The whole night, he was winning. One question, done. Smith,
Billy, just saying, he is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship.
Oh, did he win? Did he win? Did he win? You called him Hitler. They came into that.
More proof to me of who he was talking to. Of who he was focusing on, that segment of the MAGA population and voters who still double down and don't believe that Donald Trump lost the election. So I can't go on national TV and say that, because I have all of these people that we've kept hot, heavy, and engaged that we need to turn out. If I say that, right, they were already semi-mad that I was the VP choice to begin with because of what I've said about him in the past. And so I can't say on national television that I'm against this. That would create too much chaos. So I'm just going to deflect shield,
right. Bring it back to
some
Kamala
random
Harris.
Something else.
Right. I mean, because that was the tactic. Anytime you say this, we'll talk about Kamala Harris and what she didn't do. And he kept saying that she's in the White House. She should be doing these things. I'm like, she's vice president. She's vice president. We're going to get into that. Like, his whole thing was she had 4 years to do. And we're like, vice president, civics lesson. Before we get to the next clip, Smiz, I want to play. They did a focus group after the debate. 866-801-8255. I'm giving out the number if you want to talk about your highlights, lowlights, the moments that you leaned into. And listen, I feel like in many ways we're talking to the converted here on Urban View, people who actually study, know stuff. So I don't expect there to be a whole lot. I'm giving you my honest opinion. If I were just judging this based on style and performance, Tim Walz was nervous and not really feeling like he was solid. He was misspeaking a lot, talking about he was friends with the shooter. He didn't mean that. We know he didn't mean that. He was nervous. Everything's out the window. I get it. But then when J.D. Vance refused to acknowledge that Trump didn't win the election, they did a focus group of people who were, quote unquote, undecided. Now, I'm of the belief, Joy, I don't know if you believe this too. At this point, if you don't know who you're voting for, you're lying. I just feel like you're.
No, I do believe there are people who are undecided, and they may be undecided not only between the candidates, but undecided on if they're going to vote at all. In talking and engaging with people, yes, and for many different reasons. But there are, just thinking about the target demographic that folks are all concerned about, white women over a particular age. Yeah. They make up a large portion of that undecided voter. It's just like, my rights, but I'm also conservative. But they are undecided. And so I do think a large portion of people are lying because they want the attention. But there are a significant amount of people who are undecided, and they're just not us.
Okay. I respect that. So let me back up. So one of these people who said they were undecided, they were asked after the debate what they felt. Play clip 4.
And I actually want to start with overall impressions, guys, because all 7 of you came in undecided. One of you said they've made up their mind. Ryan, who are you going to vote for, and what kind of solidified that opinion?
Well, I'm going to be voting for Kamala Harris. One of the stark sort of aspects of that debate that really stuck with me was when they were talking about January 6th and how Mike Pence certified the election, and they were wondering if J.D. Vance would certify the election should Trump lose. And, J.D. Vance didn't really give us a definitive answer, and I'm disappointed in that fact. And I don't think that I can trust someone, with my vote if they're not going to respect it.
You better say that, Ryan. I don't know if you were a plant, sir. That was perfect response.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect response. Yeah, I mean, there's some scary stuff, and I want to get to this with you as our civics maven on Urban View from day one. There are some election people who may not certify.
Mm-hmm.
There's some ballot issues, different states. There's some mailing issues. There's some issues with the post office. This election could be a potential nightmare, especially for those of us who love democracy and want everybody to vote, everyone's vote to count. They're throwing people off the rolls in Georgia and Texas and in Florida, and so we have to be vigilant to make sure that we're still registered. But even then, they can keep doing it up until you got a place in Georgia where people can just say, I'm challenging 100,000 votes. And those votes get sat to the side. Like, there's so many things happening that it's, we're at a place where we don't even know what to trust anymore. So I want to get into that with you because this is important. We need to know all of our rights. But to have somebody who refuses to admit that that was a real election, when Trump himself has said he lost, not at his rallies, but he has said it on the record, is really, it tells you who they are. It tells you who they are. Speaking of Pence, I was looking for that fly to show up from last time. Beelzebub. I was looking for him.
He was looking for him.
The fly did not make an appearance. I was so disappointed. But there was another exchange around Mike Pence. I'm going to play. This is a highlight of Walz. I want to make sure he gets his due. Play it.
The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't wear masks.
Senator, the governor does have the floor.
Fire in a crowded theater. That is criticizing the policies of the government, which is the right of every American.
Senator, the governor does have the floor for 1 minute to respond to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't run Facebook. What I do know is I see a candidate out there who refused, and now again, and this, I'm pretty shocked by this. He lost the election. This is not a debate. It's not anything anywhere other than in Donald Trump's world. Because look, when Mike Pence made that decision to certify that election, that's why Mike Pence isn't on this stage. What I'm concerned about is, where is the firewall with Donald Trump? Where is the firewall if he knows he could do anything, including taking an election, and his vice president's not going to stand to it? That's what we're asking you, America. Will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office, even if the president doesn't? And I think Kamala Harris would agree. She wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that, because of course that's what we would do. So America, I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
The strong closing.
That was
Like it was a strong, right? I hope he felt good.
It's not how you start a thing, it's how you end. They always say it's the last, and he got that off. I agree. I agree.
And I mean, and to that, the undecided voter who says that, like, those are the kinds of questions that you should be asking yourself as you are comparing the candidates, particularly if you're an undecided voter, not only undecided between the candidates, but undecided in terms of whether or not you're going to vote or not, right? Is making those calculated decisions on, do I trust, this other person winning? And like, do I trust how they would lead? Do I trust that they actually value the system that we are actually in? And I don't. So I'm not voting for them, or I don't want to take the chance that this other campaign could win, and I don't want my voice to be out of this situation. So I'm going to make the choice to engage. I think that's really important.
I do too. The tone was nice, though. It was nice to finally see people not scratching and yelling and being and grimacing and all that. It was really nice. It was like, yes, we can debate the issues, except one of you was lying all the time. Roy Wood Jr., friend of the show, we love him. He said J.D. Vance has the energy of a restaurant manager who understands your complaint, but still ain't taking that hamburger off your check.
I saw that and I was like, yep, we've all encountered that person. It's just like, oh, I understand. Oh, yeah, that would frustrate me too. Okay, so here you go. It's 5206.
Yes. Oh, he's so nice, but I'm still eating this burger that had a hair in it. How is this happening?
My days are cooler, nights are warmer, and I put the blame on you. Time moves slow, but my heart beats faster. When these eyes are looking right at you, right at you. You give me something to believe in, just what I needed. You're the closest.